Senator Bernie Sanders with us in our Brunch with Bernie hour a day early. It's Thursday, and Senator Sanders on the line with us, taking your calls, answering your questions. Ray in Van Buren, Arkansas, you are on the air with Senator Sanders.
Thank you for taking my call. Senator Sanders, I have two quick comments and then a question to ask you. First of all, I'm not ashamed of you. I believe that you are a fantastic senator and that you are providing a viable third option rather than the old, tired, and worn-out boots-on-the-ground Cheney program or just doing nothing. What we see right now is Rachel Maddow has on her website a rolling list of people in Congress who are saying that it is Congress's duty to vote on this situation with ISIS. And only 30 Republicans are doing this. And I believe Republicans are trying to hide on this issue right now because they want to pull the classic bait and switch and argue against whatever Obama proposes rather than actually signing their name on the dotted line and actually voting for what they want and putting it out there for all Americans to see. Now, my question is this. Since there's only around 30 Republicans who have either publicly said or have sent a letter to President Obama saying that it is Congress's duty to vote on this, what do you think is the long-term game and program that the Republicans are up to right now?
Ray, that's an excellent question, and you've raised a number of different issues in your question. And I think one of the Republicans, I can't recall who he was pretty honest.
Yeah, it was the congressman from Georgia who said, if we don't do anything, if it goes badly, we can blame Obama, and if it goes well, we can say, why didn't you do it sooner?
Right, and I think that was Ray's question, and I think that's clearly a lot of what has to happen. And the other question is, people say, well, Congress should get involved, which obviously it should, but doing what? Doing what? Are there Republicans who, one of the things I got to say, is that Obama has been criticized. One of his statements that we don't have a strategy yet on ISIS, it was, reprinted a million times in the media. This is an enormously complicated issue. And I think back to the Bush-Cheney days where they were very strong and they were very decisive. The only problem was they were dead wrong and they lied. And they committed the worst foreign policy blunder in the modern history of America. So I think to criticize the president, and there's nobody in the Democratic caucus, by the way, who over the years has not been more critical of Barack Obama than I am. But I think for a number of areas, mostly economic. But to say that this guy's trying to think through this incredibly, unbelievably complicated issue and not do what Bush Cheney did. Rick, the first caller, was concerned. The last thing in the world that we want to do is to have troops involved in a never-ending war. But I think most Americans understand that if you have a fanatical, brutal group like ISIS taking over Iraq or taking over Syria, and I'm not fear-mongering here, I don't know, maybe they can, maybe they can't, but that would be a disaster and not solve the problem. It would not go away. It would only become worse. How? In the midst of a situation in Syria where you got an awful demagogue named Assad who has used poison gas on his own people, and he's the good guy because ISIS is even worse than him. What do you do? What do you do when you have a weak Iraqi government? And hopefully we have a better government now, which is more inclusive. What do you do? Do you simply say we shouldn't be involved? That's it? Well, maybe. That's not a totally crazy concept. I disagree with it, though, because I think it doesn't go away. So to answer Ray's point, we have got to figure out a solution that does not get us into a never-ending war, which gives support to those people who are prepared to fight against ISIS, which makes this not an American effort, but an international effort, which deals with these guys in Saudi Arabia and elsewhere, these multi-billionaire authoritarian countries who have made huge amounts of money from oil. Well, you know what? They got to stop putting some money into this as well, and Kuwait as well. So, what the president is trying to do is figure out something that is enormously complicated, not repeat the disasters of the Bush-Cheney era. And, I would rather have somebody being very thoughtful and premeditated on this rather than somebody who commits a terrible, terrible mistake.
Yeah. We have 45 seconds, Senator. John Boehner is on TV right now, presumably criticizing the president. I don't know. What do you see about the politics of this?
Well, look, I think what that fellow from Georgia said is exactly what their politics is. Look, everything is political around here. Yeah. And if they can portray the president as weak, as indecisive, as responsible for every problem in the world, and there are a whole lot of problems in the world, then that's to their political advantage. And I hope the American people do not forget about how we got into Iraq and how quickly the war in Afghanistan was supposed to end, and we're still there 12 years later. I hope people do not forget the cost of those wars in terms of human life and pain, as well as financial.